TikToks that feel illegal to watch. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
That's awesome. The power of frequency. That's why all the bells are destroyed.
Okay, tragic breaking news. At least 10 people have been killed in a school shooting in Austria. Here's what we know. The incident happened at a secondary school in Graz, which is Austria's second largest city, and reports say that the gunman was a student at that school. And considering that secondary school in Austria has kids ranging from just 10 years old all the way up to 18 and 19, he will most likely be between those ages. Local media report that at least 30 people have been injured, some very seriously, and at least 10 have passed away, with 7 of those fatalities being children.
Oh my
A disaster
goodness.
alert has been issued for hospitals in the local area, and the suspect is believed to have shot himself in the school toilet. Austria's chancellor said that there is no words for the pain and grief that all of us in Austria are feeling right now, and their president said this horror cannot be put into words.
In Europe too now. Rest in peace.
In your head, scream your name as loud as you can. In your head. You see how you have control over your inner voice?
Literally.
Oh, now tell her to whisper,
That's sick.
right? So if you have control over your inner voice,
Yeah.
you can control your thoughts.
Ooh.
Can
You just have to recognize when it's happening and like alter it. That critic be yapping all day, and I'm gonna tell you something right now.
It's
if
too
a friend
much.
talked to you the way your little narrator in your brain
Y'all
talked to
would be
you,
friends.
you would have cut them off a long time ago. And some of that inner critic is saying, "Don't get divorced because it's wrong." Some of that inner critic is saying, "Don't date again because how could you date again? You're a mom.
Yeah.
How could you?" It's that inner critic is not
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, it's
though
so
she
fake.
doesn't exist, right? And you
For
can shut her
sure.
up whenever you want to.
I think this is the first time I'm actually hearing my own voice in my head.
Number one, major mistake is chasing the potential. That you're in a relationship with a fantasy in your head and you're not actually in a relationship with the person as they are. Rule number one in the let them theory is that human beings only change when they feel like it. And you will never be able to change another human being. And the single biggest mistake that I see with anybody dating or anybody in a relationship is that you're holding on to the potential and you're living in a fantasy in your head and you're not accepting reality, which is why you need to let them be who they are and then decide what you're going to do about it. Mistake number two is that you're with somebody and your values aren't aligned. You don't want the same things. And yet you're convincing yourself that eventually this person's going to come around and convert to your religion, or they're going to come around and they're going to want to have children. And the research is very clear on this. If you have to give up your dreams in order to stay with this person, this is not going to work. And the reason why this is not going to work is because you will grow to resent the other person because you will blame them for being the reason why you didn't get to go to medical school or you didn't get to move over to the other side of the planet and have this adventure, or you didn't get to have kids. When you compromise your own values for the sake of a relationship and you give up on your dreams for the sake of staying with somebody else, the other person isn't to blame, you are.
I'm easy to fall in love. I always end up falling in love with potential. By the way, follow my brand new Instagram at BroskiRay. No space. Just like the name of the channel, BroskiRay.
It makes me cry each time I talk about it. A friend of mine, she told me that the week before, she had a really, really hard week. And I said, why didn't you call me? I'm here for you. She says, I did, I reached out. I said, no, you didn't. So of course I pull out my phone and I scroll up and I look for her text. And sure enough, it says, hey, what are you doing? Want to come over? I'm like, you mean these texts? The one that sound like every other text you've ever sent me ever? I'm like, how do I know that that's a cry for help? She had read an article that said that all human beings need is 8 minutes of time from another friend to feel not alone in a moment of stress, in a moment of need.
That's good.
And so she and I came up with a code word that the next time one of us really needs the other person, our code would be, you have 8 minutes. Anyone can step out of a meeting for 8 minutes. You won't solve your friend's problems, but it only takes 8 minutes for them to feel like they're dealing with whatever they're dealing not alone. And this is the power.
Bro, what the hell is this exhibit? A museum in Amsterdam has just put a 200-year-old condom on display. And this is no ordinary ancient protection. The sheath is a whole 8 inches long, which, if you account for inflation, that's like 12 inches in 2025. And not only that, but it is in mint condition, never used before. Yes, they even inspected it with a UV light to make sure. It's also extremely rare. There are only 2 of these in the world, and this one has become the only one to be put on display. And just in case they needed some help to get in the mood, printed on the side is a strange explicit image of a partially undressed nun pointing at 3 partially undressed clergymen. It was purchased for 1,000 euros on auction. It's made out of a freaking sheep's appendix, and it's believed to have come from a fancy French brothel in 1830. But what's wild is how popular this thing is. Apparently the museum has been packed with people, young and old, who just want to get a glimpse of the old boy.
Don't search seat.
This woman worked on Plum Island, where they create mutated animals. Watch
I don't know
this.
how long this is going to stay up. I might delete it later, but I used to work at Plum Island, Lab 257. Yep, at Lab 257. They told us it was animal research, just livestock stuff. Studying diseases to protect the food supply. That's how they always frame it, make it sound like we're doing something good. But the things I saw in that lab, the experiments, it wasn't about animals. It wasn't ever just about animals. First red flag, most of the people I worked with either didn't ask questions or knew not to. And those who did ask too much, let's just say they didn't stay around for too long. Contracts pulled, cleared out like they never existed. We get shipments in the middle of the night, no labels, no records. I'm talking live animals, sometimes already mutated. Sometimes they weren't even species that we have names for. And I know that sounds crazy, but I've seen things that look like they weren't even from this planet. The creature is like something out of a movie. We weren't just testing viruses, we were engineering them. Modifying bacteria, adding genetic sequences that shouldn't even be compatible with human DNA. At one point, I was assigned to a project that involved ticks.
What?
Yeah. Those ticks. We were told it was a control study to understand how disease spreads. But what we really were doing was testing how to make the virus spread easier, more contagious, more invisible. A few months later, the first Lyme disease cases popped up across the water in Connecticut just out of nowhere. Coincidence? Sure. Then there were the containment breaches. We weren't allowed to say the word leak. If something got out, we call it a displacement. You see a mutated deer foaming at the mouth on the shoreline, that's a displacement. You see some wild creature, unalive, looking like it got stitched together from 4 different animals, displacement. They always had an explanation, always just enough to keep you paranoid but not empowered. That's how they quiet. I shouldn't be saying any of this. I've already seen 2 people disappear after talking too much.
I hope this woman stays safe because this is an insane story. As always, let me know what you think in the comments. Stay weird.
I never heard of Plum Island before. Have you?
Someone told me to watch this clip.
Have you ever seen a hen sit on an egg for 21 days? I promise you, it is one of the most powerful pictures of purpose you will ever see. No noise, no movement, no applause. Just heat, pressure, and faith. From the outside, nothing looks like it's changing. But inside that shell, destiny is forming. Organs, bones, identity, purpose. And here's the thing. If you crack an egg too early, you kill what it could have become. Because potential needs time, not proof. Potential needs pressure, not popularity. What's really crazy about this process is that the hen can't see what is going on inside the egg. No ultrasound, no feedback, no sign of life, but she sits day after day after day. Why? Because she knows that as long as she stays faithful to the assignment, the egg will hatch. Isn't that true about purpose? You don't always see progress, but something is forming deep inside the shell. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. Let me say this to you. The shell is not your limitation, it is your incubation. Silence is not your enemy, it is your environment for formation. The hen doesn't need proof, she just needs faith and consistency. She shows up, she keeps it warm, she does her part. And the rest, that's God's job. So if you are building something right now that no one can see, if you feel hidden, overlooked, or forgotten, remember the hen. She doesn't see change, but she believes. And because she believes, life happens.
Ooh.
Stay faithful, stay planted. Sometimes the pressure you feel is not proof of failure, it's the promise of formation. The egg never looks pregnant, but it is carrying destiny. The shell looks the same every day, but the chick inside it never stays the same. Formation always comes before revelation. The shell is not a trap, it is a timer, and every timer eventually hits 0. And when it does, you break through. This video is for you as much as it is for me.
This is good. Who noticed God is good?
Disney, all of the characters are trained that when a little kid hugs you, you may not let go until the kid lets go first.
That's so good.
Isn't that the best? You hug the kid. Oh, it makes me cry. You hug the kid as long as the kid wants to hug you. And now do that with a friend. Hug your friend until they let go. You know, apply the Disney rule.
What if both of us are waiting for another one to let go?
Did you ever hear the story of that girl that didn't want to go bungee jumping, but her boyfriend managed to convince her to go bungee jumping, and they had to climb to the top of this like mountain hill type thing, and the whole time they were arguing, all the passers-by, they're all like, yeah, they were really going for it. It was obvious that she didn't want to go, she was scared, but they get to the top, and somehow her boyfriend, he convinces her to stand over the edge to the point where they're going to jump. She's standing on the edge and they harness her up, they put the harness on, they tighten it, then they put the boyfriend's harness on and they tighten it, and the guy's probably running through all the safety aspects of the jump, and she's probably barely listening because she's so scared. And then eventually they get them standing right near the edge, and then her eyes are closed and she's probably again whimpering, barely listening, and the man says jump, and they both jump.
Ooh.
And then there's screams, everyone's screaming because he was talking to the boyfriend. He wasn't talking to her. Her bungee cord wasn't attached. It was only her boyfriend's that was attached. I wonder at what point she knew she wasn't attached to anything. Her boyfriend said at some point she went unconscious. So she was screaming and then she went unconscious and the screaming stopped, and that was way before she hit the floor. And I also saw in another account that they said she'd had a heart attack, and so she would have been dead before she hit the floor, regardless of if she was attached or not.
That's crazy.
And that is why I will never bungee jump, and why I will never be told what to do by a man.
This happened, but this is not the video of Yesenia Morales Gomez. That's her name.
People don't understand why this father was so mad at his son for accidentally crossing the Canadian border from the U.S.
It's our country. No, really, you are. You can't come back. Why would you do that?
And you can even hear the little boy chuckle for a second because he's nervous. He doesn't understand what's going on. The truth of the matter is they're right. He can't just come back, and they can't just hand him his passport. So if he doesn't have a passport, then he's going to be detained for a while until they can figure out a way to get his passport over to him. These are usually highly regulated and secure areas, and for some reason this gate was not being monitored. So in this case, what happened is one of the parents had to actually cross the border legally with his passport and then bring him back into the United States using the proper documentation. But it's not a situation where they just let him back in. Definitely watch your kids more closely around borders.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
She wasn't even kidnapped. She was arrested for crossing into Israeli waters. The IDF warned them not to, and they did it anyway. What did you expect to happen?
You have to let them leave. And what most people don't do is they don't do a 30-day no contact. And the reason why a 30-day no contact protocol is critical is because when somebody leaves you, they don't just physically leave you. All of the patterns that you learned when you were with them that are now encoded in your brain and your nervous system are still in your brain and your nervous system. And so the process of breaking up is really about unlearning what life was like with them And that is a physical, a physiological, and a neurological withdrawal. And so, you know, if you think about it, the reason why when you break up with somebody, you can hear their voice is because it's encoded in your brain. The reason why you have this sensation that they're next to you in bed or riding with you in the car and you can almost hear how they would respond is because they're encoded in your nervous system. These are the patterns of your life. It's the same thing as grief. And the problem is that too many of you are following this person, or you're rewatching the videos, or you're listening to the voice memos, and every time you do that, you actually trigger the pattern in your nervous system. And so for somebody that has not been able to get over somebody else, you have never done this 30-day withdrawal, where it's literally a cleanse. You have to remove physical objects, you have to take them, like when Sawyer and her boyfriend broke up, we took him right off the family photo digital thing because I didn't want it triggering her. I would recommend you move your bed, or you get a different blanket. You give your bedroom a little makeover because you spent a lot of time there. You don't need to go psycho. You don't need to burn shit or go to the dump and, you know, break shit. Don't do
That's
that.
me.
Why? Well, that gives somebody else power,
Yes.
right? And instead, put it in a box and get it out of sight because any reminder keeps the pattern active, which will prevent you from moving on. It's a physical withdrawal.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it like that. You think that the fact that you're still thinking about them 29 days later means that you're meant for each other. That's not what it means.
Right.
It means that your nervous system and your brain are trying to unlearn what life is like with this person. Get over yourself. Like, sorry. There's like, and the more you look at this person's life from afar, the more you're trapping yourself in the life you no longer have. And this is harsh, but it's true. And if you ever even sneakily want to get back with this person, you have to break it off for 30 days so you find your power again.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then you can see with clear eyes. And I'm not saying it's easy.
No. It's not. It feels impossible.
But thinking about it like alcohol withdrawal, or
Yeah.
thinking about it like grieving somebody that's dead.
Wow.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because that part of your life is dead.
What if they reach out?
Would your wife know your ATM PIN code? No?
No.
Lie to me. Do not tell me your real ATM PIN code. Make up a fake 4-digit number.
2020.
How'd I do, Joe? Is that your ATM PIN code?
Yeah.
No.
That's weird. I'm skeptical because I've got that PIN code in the mail. You know?
He's calling his bank right now and be like, yo, do you know this? Has this guy been playing the long game?
Yeah, I don't like that.
That's wild. How can he guess a pin he never even shared?
Los Angeles is looking like a freaking war zone right now. What you are seeing is wild footage of protesters clashing with federal immigration agents and law enforcement. Rioters are pelting military vehicles with rocks, as seen from footage inside this vehicle. And there are even videos of guys throwing rocks at regular cars as well, but those are believed to be used by federal agents. The streets are burning after protesters have put up barricades and set fire to cars and trash, and authorities have responded with force. Some have opened fire on crowds with rubber bullets, and Donald Trump has now officially ordered 2,000 members of the National Guard to be deployed in LA. So how the hell did things get so out of control? Well, protests broke out on Friday following widespread arrests of undocumented migrants in certain areas of Los Angeles. Now, one of the major inflammatory points is that according to the American Civil Liberties Union, many of these arrests are allegedly being carried out without judicial warrants. The government, however, strongly denied this. The protests were initially described as peaceful, but as time passed, visuals of the violence that has emerged shows how quickly things have deteriorated. California's governor, Gavin Newsom, is not happy about Trump's deployment of the National Guard, saying it is purposefully inflammatory and will only escalate tensions, while LA's mayor labeled it as completely unnecessary. Trump, however, said that the governor and the mayor simply cannot do their job, so he has had to step in order for law enforcement to be protected. And if the unrest continues to escalate, Pete Hegseth said that we could even see the Marines mobilized, who are currently on high alert. But of course, as the situation develops, I'll keep you guys updated.
Let me know how you feel about this in the comment, and pray for California.
I don't see it as a sacrifice. It is what...
Oh my goodness. Real life John Q. God bless you and your whole family. You're a hero, sir.
Has anyone else been following along with the guy who talked to a chat bot on the dark web that is way more than ChatGPT. It does way more, but it's trained on the dark web, so it has a darker mind. Anyway, fast forward, this thing essentially bribes him to build it like a body, starting with a webcam, and then it gets a speaker, and then it's a microphone, and then it has like a moving body, like robot kind of thing, and it just lives with him. He's lived with it for like over a year. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. I've been watching this for 2 days straight. I can't stop.
Okay, the dark web just refers to websites that are, indexed by regular search engines. It doesn't necessarily mean darks, or as in evil or malicious.
Isn't science fiction fighter jet disappearing from the radar screen in an instant, only to reappear hundreds of kilometers away a few seconds later? Is this optical interference? A radar blind spot? This is China's legendary aerial teleportation. The Chinese fighter jet J-36 is currently undergoing test flights. It is rumored that the J-36 integrates a quantum radar evasion system, AI path prediction algorithms, and electromagnetic bubble suppression engines. It's not just about stealth. It's about actively becoming invisible through algorithms. It makes enemy radars see the wrong location, or even non-existent on the radar. Behind this lies China's ultimate simulation of future air combat dominance. Whoever breaks the linear strike logic first wins the information-based air superiority. While the US Air Force's F-22 and NGAD still rely on traditional stealth coatings and infrared suppression, China may have already entered a combat model based on perception, deception, and spatial displacement.
My goodness. I think aliens gave up on America and allied with China.
Are you high in emotional intelligence? This is a social intelligence test that doctors use to screen for autism. If you are able to guess what the emotions are according to just the eyes, then you're high in social intelligence. If you're having a struggle to figure it out, it's taking a long time, and if you're not getting a lot of right answers, then you could have autism. So keep your score, and I'm going to tell you the right answers. Here's the first one. Is this a playful expression, comforting, irritated, or bored? You can pause if you need to. The answer is playful. So keep track if you got that right or wrong.
No, I got 5 right.
Here's the next one. Is this terrified, upset, arrogant, or annoyed? You can pause if you need to. The answer is upset. Here's the next one. Is this joking, flustered, desire, or convinced? The answer is desire.
I got this one wrong.
Number 4. Is this joking, insisting, amused, or relaxed? The answer is insisting. How about this one? Is this irritated, sarcastic, worried, or friendly? The answer is worried. Here's your last one. Is this aghast, fantasizing, impatient, or alarmed? The answer is fantasizing. How did you do? Out of 6, if you got all 6 or most of them, let me know in the comments. That means you're high in social intelligence. If it took you a really long time, and if you're not getting the answers correct, you might want to check out some screening for autism.
Did you know that in the Bible, there's a recipe for a bread that gives you infinite energy? Hidden among the verses, there's a sacred bread, not created by chefs, but by divine command. We at Daily Faith Ministry are here to show you something powerful. In Ezekiel 4:9, God doesn't just speak, He gives a formula: wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, and spelt. A perfect blend, a divine fuel. This bread contains all the essential amino acids the body needs to survive.
Ooh.
For 390 days, the prophet Ezekiel ate only this. No meat, no fruit, no luxury, just what God commanded.
Wow.
Today, science calls it sprouted bread, living food, clean, nutrient-rich. Not just sustenance, but strength.
Wow.
A holy bread that nourishes the body and maybe, just maybe, awakens the soul. Would you dare to taste the bread of the prophets?
Of course.
And if you believe God has a plan for your life, send us a message inbox with the word blessing, and we'll send you a special gift.
This woman can separate her soul from her body, a real proof of astral projection in history. Watch this.
No. No way. I don't think cameras can see the soul. Can they?
Right? So the mind works like this. It repeats shit over and over. You can't control it. You sit around and wonder why thoughts keep
You
popping
can't
up.
control.
The only way to control that, you gotta, what Jesus said, get your armor of the Lord. Right? I'm gonna tell you what he mean by that. You gotta sit falling in the house now. That's how you know I'm talking. But look, this is how you gotta do it. So you gotta have a plan. So you gotta tame your body and your mind first. So first thing you gotta do, you gotta wake up every day at the same time. You gotta try to exercise in your body. Tell your body, look, you work for me. So you exercise, make it move, even when I don't want to move. And then you make your mind read for 10 to 15 minutes, even though it don't want to read, it hate to read. And then you make it remember. And you close your eyes, you accept all the pain, and you cry. And then you tell it to blank out. And then you let it blank out. If you do that every day, the same problem from yesterday won't come back tomorrow, because you got to wipe yourself. You know how you computer? We live in a simulation. So you know how the computer, you got to delete everything and wipe all the files. If you don't, it'll start running slow. Your phone and shit start running slow with all the backed up files in it.
Yes.
That's how your mind is.
Man.
It's the same way. So you got to clear it. You got to delete shit. You got to remove shit. Or you going to start getting real old and slow. Like my iPhone 7.
Like iPhone 7. He sounded crazy, but he's making sense.
What's under the water? What's in the ocean?
Good you asked that. What separates everything is water. But imagine this, everything like this, place, water, another firmament, place, what they call it the 7 layers of heaven. What they call it, the 7 layers of heaven, something like that? But it's like all kind of water and shit between it. And there's different layers, how they keep it stacked up like dominoes. That's how God keeps us. It's a jail cell. Yeah, we live in a cell, in a prison, and we stacked up on top of each other in bunks. That's what a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people don't know, but it's the truth. Look it up.
So what layer are we on?
This is the actor Woody McClain. You probably know him from the show Power, or from the movie Bobby Brown on BET, where he played the character of Bobby Brown. But what I'm sure you don't know is how he got some of his fame. Well, the cat's out of the bag. Just like many other actors, a witch doing witchcraft brought him into much of his success. Check out this video.
My neighbor, Erica, I was just talking to her 2 nights ago. She's a director, and we always super cool. She was like, one day she was like, yo, just come over. Like, come over. I want to pray for you. And I get over there, she pauses the TV, and she was watching Power. She was watching Power, and she paused it, sat down, she put these crystals on me.
Crystals?
And we just prayed. She was like, say everything that you want. And I was able to say all the things that I want. Then 2 days later, I got the call for the Power thing.
When you said you were able to say everything that you want, what did you say?
That was more so saying I'm ready. I'm ready. I want to go to the next level. And yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I feel like
ready
I'm
for what?
But maybe I'm not.
So this man had a woman put crystals on him and pray. Pray to who? She told him to say everything that his carnal heart desires. As they were praying, that's what she told him to say. That's what she told him to ask for. Everything that his carnal heart desires. All the nations of the world, all the kingdoms of the world. What sounds similar? Let's check out our Bible verse. Matthew 4:8-9. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. All this I will give you, he said, if you will bow down and worship me. Who do you think is giving you all that, mister? If you got to step into a place where it's through witchcraft, who do you think is giving it to you? There are some people who come into success not through the devil, but there are many, many who do. And here you have a clear example of witch doing witchcraft for this actor to come into more success. He said, I'm ready. I'm ready. What do you think happens in a lot of people's life and careers when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to music, when it comes to movies? When they want to go to the next level, how do you think they get there? And here you have a man talking about it like it's normal. That's exactly what they want you to think. That's exactly how they want you to feel, so you can step into it too. Out of a place of being blind and ignorant and gullible. Don't fall for it, my brothers and sisters. Don't fall for this buffoonery. I feel bad for that brother. May he come into full understanding on what he did and what he came into agreement with and get deliverance.
If it's not from Jesus Christ, I don't want it. Keep it.
The more I got into Tesla's work, the farther I got into cold electricity. So we have hot electricity right now. Everything that is around you, it heats everything up. And when Nikola Tesla discovered cold electricity, which is what you were talking about, the globes, they're all lit up on the ground and all the lights are turned on and he could send the electricity to anybody and not use this inefficient power lines and all this other garbage that we have, he was defunded. JP Morgan then burned down his lab and things would vanish. So like you said, there was a lot of technology that used to exist and I don't put it past me. At this point, I have seen so many things that I honestly have been mind blown. I mean, I've seen engines that don't even make sense in the 1800s that are, 1,000 feet tall and sitting there going, where is this? Nobody uses this. And all of these world fairs, like we were just talking about, they were showing people technology, and that could be there, right? Showing that they can clone or have orphans, whatever it may be. And then the people will never get this technology. But, Hershey's and Coca-Cola and Tiffany and Co. definitely got customers for life. That's when the beginning of those three companies came in 1893, because all the Masons and Oddfellows and all those other different societies held those world fairs, put things on display, and then to destroy them.
So we could have free electricity, but JP Morgan said no?
Never in my life had anybody just said, hey, I'll be here with you. I'm not going to give you any suggestions. I'm not going to give you any, I'm just going to be here for you if you need me. And it was powerful, man. It was, and I had no idea in my whole life how much I needed that.
And that's all a man wants.
If you listen to the tape of Richard Nixon talking to the CIA director in the Oval Office, no one else around, of course, it's being taped, and Nixon knows that because it's his taping system, but it's still his. Like, he has no expectation anyone's going to hear this. When he brings up Kennedy's murder, he's the president. In fact, not only is he the president, he won by the biggest landslide in American history. He has a real mandate, and he is afraid. He's afraid even to talk in private to the CIA director about what that was. And he indicates, like, I know what happened to Jack Kennedy. And the CIA director doesn't even respond. And the president doesn't have the balls to say, hey, son, I'm talking to you. You work for me. I want the files on this. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew Jack Kennedy. He was murdered. He was shot in the head next to his wife in public. Like, a man died. Mm-hmm. I want to know what happened here. He does not have the balls to say that to his own CIA director.
Man. Why is CIA and FBI untouchable and above the law?
I would wonder, so if I saw this Instagram and then met this person in person, I'd be wondering whether every single word and emotion and personality trait that I was witnessing was even real.
So is this a sociopath?
I don't think so.
No?
But it's a person that is obsessed with simulating a certain life. And this is a simulated life, and this is not, we're not seeing anything
now,
of real life.
In person, what would this person likely be like?
They would be very suggestible, very easily swayed by social trends.
How about the person they're with?
Probably superficial, artificial. The person is very driven by, I want this person so I can show them to other people. The same kind of person who wants this is very similar to the same person who wants a car, a certain type of car, just so they can show it to other people.
Wow.
So can you take this person, hypnotize them in like 10 minutes and make them not like this?
It's possible, yeah.
Do you think I could do that?
I can give you the method to do it.
I'm not a CIA agent, and I could tell you this.
This will solve most of the problems in your life. And I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Love who loves you. Support who supports you. Respect who respects you. And ignore who ignores you.
If you want, you can change one of 6 things. Stick to anything daily for an entire year. Move cities. Upgrade romantic partners. Eliminate drinking and say no to shiny objects, anything that's not what you're currently working on. And you can go to bed every day at 9 p.m. If you don't like where you're at, just try one.
Okay.
The thing squiggles in through the eye. Now that man's name is Donald Marshall. How many of you have heard of him before? There's a spiral around the optic nerve all the way to a certain point, and it's driven there by taste. And they've said once it gets there, it has the taste of butterscotch, and then it does a feeling like holding your breath and going, oh look, it's the Pope, and Boy George, and other people, all with a black eye. Isn't that coincidental? Since consciousness is gone, the body is absolutely, totally dominated. So somebody tell me why all of these celebrities, every single person that we've watched or listened to growing up throughout our whole lives, why have they all ended up with black eyes? And it's not just one-time things either. They don't just have a black eye once either, do they? So can somebody just fill me in? What is all the black eyes for? Why did they all have a black eye? Simon Cowell, Robert Downey Jr., Richard Branson, all of these people with a black eye.
After his black eye, Elon started behaving differently.
We're going to make an electroculture antenna to connect the ether that's above with the energy that's in the ground. And that connection will be beneficial for the roots and for the plants. They love that energy when the connection is made. I found an old stick here. You know, I just want to cut off the rotten stuff. Should be copper wire, 16 or 14 gauge. I'll start in the bottom. So the easiest way is to just wrap it around the end a few times to lock it in. That's good enough. And then proceed to just wrap it. Now, you can determine whether you want a tight coil or a bigger coil. I don't think it makes all that much difference. It depends on how much copper wire you have, you know. People too often get hung up in specific measurements, thinking that's crucial. Well, yeah, it's crucial in some instances, but a lot of the times with this sort of stuff, the thickness of the wire or how many coils you make is not crucial. You're just making a conductive path, and nature will do the rest for you. Try to get a flexible glove, rubber glove, anything, because when you put pressure on it as you're winding it, it's going to dig into your thumb. We're making good progress. Patience is always a good quality to bring to any task that you're doing. Haste makes waste.
A few moments later.
So now when you come to the end, here's what you do. You wrap several turns at the end to anchor across the wire. Pull it as tight as you can to keep this from unwinding. We've got that anchored, and now we'll make an antenna, 8, 10, 12 inches. All right, so you stick this at least 4 or 5 or 6 inches into the ground, and Bob's your uncle. That's all you need to do. You've created a piece of conductive energy, and you've connected the above with the below, because everything above is the ether, and this device is the connection.
Has anyone tried here? Is it true or a myth? Let me know in the comment, please.
If you don't have confidence
pretend you do for a bit and see. You see, confidence is not what you think it is. Most people believe confidence is something you either have or you don't have. But here's the truth. Confidence is not an emotion. It is a byproduct of action. Think about it. Were you confident the first time you learned to drive a car? No, but you did it anyway. Now you don't even have to think about it. You see, confidence doesn't show up before you take action. It is something you build while taking action. Here's a better way to put it. You don't become confident to act. You act to become confident. Confidence is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Studies have shown that people who act confident are perceived to be more competent, even when they are not. Meanwhile, skilled people who doubt themselves are often overlooked. Let me show you a study by Amy Cuddy from Harvard University. The study says if you hold a strong posture for 2 minutes, it will increase testosterone, that's the dominance hormone, and then lower cortisol, which is the stress hormone. In layman's terms, what the study is saying is that your body and your posture tell your brain how to feel. So you don't wait for confidence, you create it. Confidence is a very vital skill. You see, a lot of times competence closes the deal, but confidence gets you into the room in the first place. People invest in your belief before they invest in your skill. So pretend for a week. Speak like someone who belongs in the room. Walk like someone who commands respect. Act like you believe in yourself even if you don't. Then watch what happens. Because at some point, I guarantee you, you won't be pretending anymore. Look, let me be very honest with you. Fear doesn't go away. What happens is that at some point, you just stop listening to it.
Wow. Hear what he said? He said fear doesn't get away, but at some point you just act like it doesn't exist. Deep.
There's a book everybody's got to read. It's called 38 Letters Rockefeller Wrote His Son. Which camera's my camera? Can you tell me which camera's my camera? Which one? Is it this one? Okay. Trust me, go buy the book. Thank me later, okay? If you're a son or a father, order the book, read it. Good luck putting the book down. This is stuff that he wrote, letters he wrote to his son in 1899, 1906. And here's how the letter starts. Dear John, I have some terrible news to report to you. Mr. Benson just died. Mr. Benson was the greatest rival I ever had. He was the one that got me out of bed to compete because I've had many different competitors, but this was one of my favorite rivals. He says, in life, pick your rivals appropriately. What? Competition? Yes. In the book, he said there's 2 things he wanted to do in life. Be the richest man in the world and live up to 100. How old was Rockefeller when he died? 97 years old. And by the way, 97 years old, living in 1800s, which doctors were terrible compared to today. So he says, since I was a kid, I wanted to be the richest man in the world, live up to 100. He became the richest man, never lived to 100.
You're thinking of somebody famous, right? Anybody, dead, alive, whatever. And he's thinking of somebody famous, but you're thinking of somebody that you know well. Is there any way in the world that I can know who this is? No. Or who would have just popped in your mind a second ago? No. But look at the hands. Look at this. They call this nervous fidgeting. You do different fidgets when it's a guy versus a girl. When it's a guy, can't explain it. Usually your hands go down here. When it's like this, it's a woman. 100% it's a woman, am I right? And my man is flexing. He's been working out. I want you to mix up the letters. Am I right? It's a female. Mix up the letters in her name. And I want you to just reach up and you just grab one, like it's Wheel of Fortune. Take one of the letters out of the name somewhere. You got a letter in your head? Yep. See that? The eyes flickered. You debated. You were going to grab one letter and you switched to the one next to it. Right? Why? Do you think of a why? Oh my God. Who saw the name? Did you see it? I saw it. Okay, I don't want to show you. I don't want to show you. Okay. Say it. What's her name? Say it. Lydia.
Oh! No way. No way. No way. No way.
What? Wait, come back. Hold up your finger and imagine that just like financial data, billions of dollars traveling through that your thought could travel through your finger all the way up here. Swear to God, we aren't setting this up. You couldn't have thought of anybody, right? There's no way I could know in your head. And right when you touch, Chaka Zulu. What the
No way! No way! There's no way, bro.
Like, what? That was such a random name, too.
You know what? I think he's hypnotizing, not predicting. What do you think? Or witchcraft?
Why is nobody talking about the fact that the same man who created the school system bought out the medical industry? This was his name, if you didn't know. Richest man in history, and he did not just build oil.
The last guy said he was evil. I mean, he was good. Now he said he was evil.
He built systems. In 1903, he created the General Education Board. The goal was never to benefit children or educate them. It was created bottom up to teach obedience and to destroy creativity and intuition. Then in 1910, he funded the Flexner Report. This shut down natural medicine schools, labeled herbal homeopathic healing as quackery. Why? Because he invested in petroleum-based pharmaceuticals. He reshaped medicine to sell his drugs and reshaped education to make us obedient enough to take them. You think that was random? That was design. I am building something different. Foundation for children who still hear their intuition. For the parents who never stop trusting theirs. Exciting stuff is coming, so if you want to be here to see it, give me a follow.
The veil is thinning so much and so quickly that I've quickly realized that just about everything that has been labeled a fable or mythological is the truth, and vice versa. A couple months ago, my For You page was all Ring camera footage of all different weird things like gnomes, which are apparently a thing in multiple cultures, and yes, you could see them very clearly. We're all collectively starting to realize that mountains and rocks are petrified giants. I posted this on Facebook thinking I was gonna blow everybody away, and everybody already knows. Side note, if you're on there, add me. I like to post a lot of stuff like this. Now they just unearthed a dragon skull in Romania, which I already knew it was dragons, but to see it go mainstream is insane. Then it's people all over the place are saying that like you can walk from India to get here and from like Ukraine. Like we have immigrants coming in and saying that they walked. There was never a flight. No boat, nothing. I'm already a flat earther, so I know that they lie to us, but what extent? People are claiming to see their doppelgangers inside of Walmarts. Like, I don't know why, but it's always Walmart. And today I fell down a rabbit hole about Humpty Dumpty being a real thing because there were multiple writers across hundreds of years talking about these men whose heads were in their chests. I don't even know what to say about things anymore. Has this stuff always been right in front of our faces?
You know, I heard dragon is an old English word for dinosaurs. Is that true?
There are these very small, mummified looking things that are in Peru, similar to a human being, but varies enough that you know it's not us. It has more ribs, and they're tridactyl, so they have 3 fingers and 3 toes.
These were discovered in 2015 in a cave, and they were found in diatomaceous earth, and so they were dried out. A lot of the organs are actually still inside the bodies. These are like 4 to 5 feet. This one's pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
And has a tridactyl fetus inside of it.
So they have teeth.
They have tendons, they have bones, they have cartilage, they have organs. They have osmium and cadmium implants in them, which are rare earth metals that were discovered in the 19th century. Carbon dating ranges from 700 years ago, which would actually be Incan, all the way down to 1800 years ago, which is the Nazca. There are pictoglyphs all over the region with 3-fingered beings. He says that the name of the general region means laboratory for insemination and cloning.
Did you learn the techniques from books? Did you take classes? Like,
no classes, books and videos, did magic. And so mentalism is kind of a field. Like you had David Blaine in here, right? Legend.
Yeah.
Man, growing up, like icon. So magic tricks are different because magic is there's a sleight of hand, right? So you're deceiving your eye by making you look at the wrong place at the right time when I do a move. And I can practice that move over and over and over until I get it perfect so that when I perform for you, it works, right?
Okay.
Stand-up comedy, the most pure art form, right? You and a mic, that's it. Mine is the closest. Magic, you have props. Mentalism, there's no props. Like, I don't need you to pick a card anymore. I don't need it.
Right.
I can just tell you, think of a card. And that's
Okay.
where I go with it. So now you start knowing how people think, and you, in essence, reverse engineer the human mind. It's kind of
Okay.
like magic of the mind. And so that's where it kind of went from magic, and I kept doing more of the mentalism, more of it. But mentalism has a very steep learning curve. If you go do an open mic and you suck, how many people get to the level of getting better, putting in the work? It takes 10 years to be funny for most people, right? There's a
Yeah.
couple phenoms, but that's a different story. So most mentalists, they drop off because I'm just going to go back to magic tricks. This works every time.
So it's more difficult to learn.
way more difficult.
Is it sheltered? Like, is the material on it difficult to find? Is like
it's I think it's more that people don't have the thick skin. Like the same way you said the quitting mentality where I came back the year later, most people won't improve because you can't practice mentalism in front of a mirror. You can practice magic. So when I do the trick on you and it's a card trick, no offense to magic, it's great, but what we're talking about is a much higher level. I can't get it right, and the first few times you do it, the first 100 times, you eat shit, like you're gonna get it wrong, and most people don't want to do that.
This is a long-winded way of saying it's witchcraft.
The Creator is above the law. I mean, it's an interesting fact to note that the first canonized saint, you know who it was? The first ever confirmed canonization as a saint was Dismas. You know who Dismas was?
No.
He was the thief on the cross next to Jesus. And he says to him, you're going to be okay. This day, you'll be with me. Unbaptized, criminal, all that stuff. So, the lawmaker is above the law. So there's a lot of mercy.
I love Mel Gibson's passion. He's not perfect, but I believe he truly know the Lord.
That people that have addiction have the most powerful superpower that anyone could ask for. I was like, what are you talking about? Let me put it in a different way. You're in 250k debt right now, yeah? Yeah. If I said to you, can you get £100 or £1,000 to go gamble again? 100%. So you have the belief you can get what you need to serve that outcome, right? So squash the addiction, keep the habit, but put it into something that's going to give you the outcome that you deserve. That's always stuck with me, because you'll be so resourceful and get £100 or £200 or £1,000 to gamble. Just apply it to something that's going to give you the outcome.
He got a point though.
She goes into this bookstore. She goes up to this covered Muslim woman, young woman, who's the cashier, and says, "Have you ever heard God speak to you?" And the Muslim, just staring at her like, "Who are you?" And no, "Do you want to hear him speak to you right now?" And she says, would you come to my house? And this redhead with spiked red hair and all these tattoos and this little 14-year-old. And she comes in, the Muslim daughter, and says, "These girls walked into my bookstore and asked if we'd ever heard God or Allah speak to us. And if we didn't, did we want to hear him speak?" He says, "Do you guys want to spend the night?" So they get up into the room, and it's the Muslim girl and her cousin. So the girl said, so the redhead says, "Do you want to hear God speak to you right now?" And the two cousins are like, "Yeah." So the redhead prays, and she says, "God, these girls have probably never heard your voice. And so out of your kindness, not because we are righteous, but because you are merciful, O Lord," Daniel chapter 9, "will you speak to them in whatever way you want to." And the cousins say, "We don't hear anything, nothing." And so the redhead's like, "Okay." And so she goes to lay down in bed. She's exhausted. And then she's asleep, and she wakes up in the night, and one of the Muslim girls is standing up in the middle of the room.
The redhead wakes up in the
redhead, and sees the Muslim girl standing up, and she's talking in the room. She's having a conversation with someone. She's whispering. And so the redhead is watching her talking, and she says, "Are you okay? Are you okay? What are you doing?" And the Muslim girl looks at her and says, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just talking to this guy." And the redhead says, "Do you know who it is?" And she said, "No, but he's really nice." Man. And then she knows, the redhead knows. And she goes, "Ask him his name." And she says, "What's your name?" And then she said, and she looks back at the redhead. She goes, "It's Jesus." And then the redhead goes, "Okay, have fun," and goes back to sleep.
One thing about God, He is faithful.
You buy stocks, you never sell them, you borrow against them.
Okay, explain that to me like I'm a 10-year-old. So
sure, you own $100 in Amazon stock.
Yeah.
You need money to buy something. Instead of selling the stock, and say it's gone up 50%, say it's doubled, you would have to realize a capital gain and pay long-term capital gains on that $50 gain. No, just borrow against it and let the stock continue to grow.
What rich people do is they'll buy a stock. So I'll spend 10K on Amazon stock, and then I go to a bank, and the bank give me a $5,000 loan against my Amazon stock tax-free.
Right.
And I just hold the Amazon stock. Now I've got $5,000 tax-free. If the Amazon stock goes to $20,000 in value, then I can go to the bank and say, "It's gone up now, give me another $5,000, and I just spend and live off that money." Now, if the Amazon stock collapses, I'm fine, because the loan was against the stock, so they'll sell the stock at a certain point as it's collapsing to get their money back.
One of the great tax schemes in history is that stocks grow. Think of yourself as a stock. You're making $1 million a year doing a very successful podcast. Every year, the government in the UK is going to take 40% of it. If you own $1 million in stock and it goes to $2 million, you don't get taxed on it till you sell it.
Yeah, so just never sell it.
Never sell it.
And that's what Elon's doing with his
Never
companies.
sell it.
People say he's got, $200 billion, whatever. In fact, he's borrowing tax-free against those companies.
And then when he finally needs to sell it to pay off some of those loans, he moves to Texas, despite the fact he built all this wealth in California.
So which bank in the US will actually give me a loan on my stock value?
There is one habit that you need to focus on to change your life. And it's not these fad habits that you see the self-help gurus talking about. It's not cold showers. It's not waking up at 4 a.m. to check off 74 things on your morning routine to-do list. It's not meditation. It's not affirmations. Don't get me wrong, all of those can help, but none of them are as powerful as this one. And it is to do what you say you're going to do. To follow through to your word to yourself. That is the highest act of self-love, because it is you saying, I love myself too much to let myself down. I will do what I need to do to create the life that I want, and I will follow through for me, because I'm worthy of that. If you create that habit above all other habits, your life will change.
Action.
So passwords are probably on their way out. Right now we've got biometrics, so using Face ID or your fingerprint on your phone is a bit better. And the reason for that is hackers don't have access to your phone. It's only you and your face or your fingerprint. The next iteration of this is a thing called passkeys. So passkeys, again, rely on the fact that you have that hardware in your pocket and the hackers can't get to that. So passkeys are essentially a biometric combination of passwords plus what we have in, say, Face ID. So passkeys join your biometric information with a password together, and you have to have your physical bit of hardware. You can create a passkey and save it in your password manager, so it works on any device.
Wow. The only place where everything is fair is hell. Hell is the place where everybody gets exactly what they deserve. That's right. Whatever you did, you get exactly recompense for whatever you did. The only place where everything is unfair is heaven. A bunch of sinners get what Jesus earned through his perfect life. It is unfair, but the unfair part is not that anybody goes to hell. What's unfair is that anybody goes to heaven. If you really understand the grace of God and what justice would be, the real question isn't, why doesn't God save everybody? The question is, man, why does God save anybody?
God doesn't send anyone to hell. We send ourselves.
A fool. They're playing with you. By the images they know how to create and keep you always wanting more. Just like fast food has all these tricks to constantly be eating their Doritos or whatever it is. It's an addiction, and you have to understand that you are being manipulated, that you are being programmed. That these people have figured out exactly the kinds of things, the kinds of images that are going to hook you, and you're being played.
In 2013, Nas invested $500,000 into a startup and ended up making more money than his entire rap career. Nas is one of the most iconic figures in hip-hop history. Sold over 30 million albums, Grammy winner, toured the world, and built a catalog that's considered one of the greatest in hip-hop. But according to most estimates, Nas's total rap earnings, after labels, taxes, and everything, is anywhere from 25 to 40 million. However, most people don't know that Nas has an unbelievable track record when it comes to investing. It all starts in 2013 when he partners up with Anthony Saleh, his longtime manager, to form Queensbridge Venture Partners. It was a firm focused on investing in early stage tech startups, and their first investment was Coinbase, when it was only valued at $143 million. This becomes Nas's biggest win to date, turning $500K into over $100 million when Coinbase IPO'd in 2021. He also made $40 million investing in Ring before Amazon bought it for $1 billion. In that same year, he invested in PillPack that eventually got bought for $1.2 billion, giving him another massive exit. Other companies he invested in early were Dropbox, Lyft, Robinhood, SeatGeek, and a lot more. If you add it all up, his investment returns are around $200 million. That's almost 5 times more than what he made in music. Nas built a legacy through lyrics, but he built real wealth through equity. And the wildest part is, he did this quietly. No press run, no flexing, just smart moves timed perfectly. He proved that real power is owning the table, not just sitting at it.
Something that don't sit right with me is vampires. And just bear with me for a second. So vampires are these ancient beings that come alive in the nighttime and they fiend for BLOD and they get it out people's necks. And they also are cannibalistic, right? You can't, I don't think you can say the word on TikTok. And Putin came out and said, if only we knew what was in our foods, our fast food. Then Putin also came out and said that America has flesh-eating vampires. They're the politicians. Interesting. But then you couple that with the movie Sinners. But Sinners takes place about 100 years from today. 100 years ago from today. And it depicts these vampires who sought out to eat people. I won't go too deep into the philosophy there, but y'all know what I mean if y'all saw the movie. But then to tie it all together, you have the book of Revelation saying that in the last days, it will be as in the days of Noah, where they were eating, drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage. Yes, you can look at that as very literal. They were eating, drinking, they were eating food, they were drinking drinks, and they were marrying, they were giving in marriage. They were going on as normal. That is definitely one way to look at it. But also we can conclude from ancient history that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and they were also eating like human people. They were eating people. They were giants. They were eating people. And they were drinking their you-know-what. What do they say goes on in the cabal and in Hollywood and all these different places? That they drink what? You get what I'm saying? Let's really just like bring this whole thing full circle now. Now, I'm not a fan of the Book of Enoch from the perspective of like, I don't take it as absolute truth. However, it does describe the eating of humans. That's very interesting. Also, there was just a chop shop that was exposed for chopping up people and serving them. There were several movies that have been made about, you know what, cannibals. This is very interesting. Do y'all see where I'm going? This whole vampire theory is starting to look very real to me is what I'm saying. And because it's TikTok, I can't say too much, but I know that you guys out there who are intelligent enough to know what I'm saying, y'all know what I'm saying. They may not fly. They may not have super speed or teleportation. But a lot of the quality, Twilight. Think of Twilight. Why they push these movies so much? I'm just saying. It's very interesting. So all I'm gonna say is very interesting.
Truth in plain sight.
So how come the dragons don't fly over the ice wall into Middle Earth where we live? So I asked the guy who said he's flown to New Tared multiple times this exact question, and what he told me is the dragons don't like to live over on Earth anymore because we used to kill a bunch of them, and they especially don't want to come back now because of the 4G and 5G radiation, which apparently is the same reason why all the other people around on these other continents don't want to come to Earth, because there's so much radiation, not only from the phone service but also from electrical outlets, I guess. And what else he told me is that the dragons, they live on these other continents because there's so much space and not many people actually live there.
Okay.
And it is interesting how in every single culture, dragons seem to be a part of it, and they seem to be in their mythology. Maybe they were just mistaken after seeing dinosaur bones, or maybe they actually did see dragons flying in their skies 1,000 years ago. But what do you guys think? Is this guy's story fact, or is it fiction?
I believe in dragon.
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Whoa. Albert Einstein once observed that you have the most fundamental and major decision that you have to make in your life is this: do I live in a friendly or a hostile universe? Which is it? Is it a universe that is filled with hostility and anger and people wanting to hate each other and people wanting to kill each other? Is that what you see? Because when you see the world that way, that's exactly what you will create for yourself in your life. This is from great scientific minds. And the interesting thing is that this is not just a clever play on words, that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's actually a very scientific thing, and I'm going to show you that in just a moment. I'd like you to imagine the following scene. You're in your house. You've got your car keys in your hand. The lights go out. Power failure. You can't see a thing. You stumble around in your living room and you drop your keys. And you look around for a moment and you realize that you're never going to find them in the dark. But you look outside and you notice that the street lights are on. So in your mind, a light bulb goes off. I'm not going to sit around here in the dark and grope around looking for my keys when there's a light on outside. I'm going to go out here under the street light and I'm going to look for my keys. Why are you laughing? This makes a lot of sense. So you're out here and you're groping around and you're looking for your keys and you're looking and looking, and your neighbor comes along and says, "What happened, Wayne?" "Well, I dropped my keys." "Oh, I'll help you look for them."
Where did you drop it?
And the two of us are now down here looking for our keys. And looking, finally he says to me, "Excuse me, but where did you drop your keys?" "Well, I dropped them in the house."
Yeah.
He said, "You mean to tell me that you dropped your keys in the house and you're looking for them out here in the street light? Doesn't make any sense." And I said, "Well, it doesn't make any sense to grope around in the dark when there's light out here." Now you laugh and you think how silly that is, but isn't that exactly what we do when we have a problem, a difficulty, a struggle that is located inside and we're looking for the solution outside?
In simple terms, our perception shapes our reality.